So here we go. We've gone all the way through the Beatitudes. We've climbed the mountain. We've sat at the feet of Jesus. We've drawn close. We've made it through. We talked about the ladder that we've gone up, that each one of them builds on top of the other. Last week we talked about understanding in light of persecution, in the face of persecution, we have to understand who we are and where we're going. Who are we? Children of God. And where are we going? There we go, yes. In light of eternity, these things are insignificant. In light of eternity, like these are light and momentary. Paul calls your trials, the worst days of your life, he calls them light and momentary. Thanks, Paul. Love you too. But he says in light of eternity, and we saw the rope. I hope you guys all still have your rope and you have it somewhere that you can see it, because we have to understand like this is just temporary. But what we do here in these 80 years, 90 years, however many years you end up living on this earth, we have to understand that what we do does dictate how we spend the rest of eternity. No pressure, right? Right, Noah? No pressure. What you do over the next several years will determine what you do for the next billion plus infinity years. If that's a number. Is that a number? Can you add to a billion, to infinity, Chad, or subtract from it? Yeah. We got in a big argument over this the other day about infinity. All right, here we go. We're going to move on before that happens. So what happens next is we have these Beatitude statements, and then we jump into these statements. We call them you have heard statements. You have heard, he has 6 of them. You have heard this, but I tell you this. Have you ever had a parent do that to you before? Like, I know you think this, but I'm telling you this. I know what your teacher and your friend said. We have to do this sometimes with our kids. Like, I know that's what you think is right. We love you. You're so cute. But this is what's right. I know you thought that was the rule of the house. But let me tell you who pays the bills. This is the rule of you get what I'm saying? Anybody been there? Don't raise your hand. I don't need to know. This isn't Gossip Central. Here we go. But here's what happens. So we're going to turn to Matthew 5. Verse 21. Matthew 5, verse 21. I'm reading out of the NASB. It's going to read a little bit different than you're used to, but I wanted to read out of my ordination Bible tonight, and it's so beautiful and pretty. So we're going to read it. Follow along in whatever version is most readable for you. You ready? Verse 21. You have heard that the ancients were told, you shall not commit murder. And whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. But I say to you that everyone who is angry, everybody say angry. Say it one more time, angry. Now say it angrily. There we go, yes. With his brother shall be guilty before the court. You have heard, do not murder. But I'm telling you that if you're angry at your brother, you've committed murder. We're stepping on toes tonight. We're going to keep going. This whole month we're going to talk about, we're diving in, but I've got to set it up. We're diving into relationships. We're going to talk a little bit about marriage, about divorce. We're going to talk about some things, whether you want to or not. I shouldn't preface it at all because I want you to keep showing up, but that's where we're going because you have to understand. The world says you have heard this is the way marriage happens. You have heard this is how you're allowed to date. You have heard this is who you're allowed to date. But I tell you, there's a better way. And that's what we're going to be talking about during this month, but we got to set it up here with these statements. He said this, you good for nothing. I love that. I don't know if that's old school or not, but I love it. He called them, you're good for nothing, shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. And whoever says, you fool, shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery hell. Therefore, if you are presenting your offering at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your offering there before the altar and go first, be reconciled to your brother, and then come make and present your offering. Make friends quickly with your opponent at law while you are with him on the way, so that your opponent may not hand you over to the judge and you be thrown into prison. Truly, I say to you, you will not come out of there until you have paid up the last cent. And then we have another one. You have heard, it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust, everybody say lust. Don't say it again. We did that with angry. We don't need to do it this one. Some of you, it's taken a minute. Has already committed Adultery. Hold on. Back up. Do not commit adultery. But I tell you, if you have lust in your heart after somebody, you've already committed adultery. Any adulterers in the room? Can I crawl under my seat right now? Any murderers in the room? Any murderers? Listen, there's 6 of these. There are 6 of these. And for the longest time, I thought that this was Jesus against Moses. Because as you're reading these, you know, it's the Old Testament. It is the 10 Commandments. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, honor your mother and father. All of these things, you're seeing them in the Old Testament. So for the longest time, I thought it was Jesus saying no to the law of Moses. Can I go a little deep theologically with you just for one moment, please? Do I have your permission? We're learning. We're drawing close this month. Everybody okay with it? Everybody give me a thumbs up if you're okay. Yeah, I'm so excited. He sounds great. So here's what's happening, though. If Jesus had truly gone against the law, if Jesus had really gone against the law, the Pharisees and the scribes who were there, which it says that they were there, the Pharisees and the scribes would have put him on the cross right there that moment. That was blasphemy. You don't talk against the law. And in fact, the passages before, if you read in verse 19, it says, I've not come to abolish or get rid of the law. I've come rather to fulfill the law. And then we read to the last you have heard statement, the very last one. It says, you have heard, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. You can look throughout your entire Bible, front to back cover, and you're never going to find in there anywhere that the law says hate your enemy. So he's not even quoting the law of Moses. Does that make sense? So this is not Jesus against Moses. In fact, if we were to read chapters 5, 6, and 7 in one sitting, if I were just to start at the very beginning of chapter 5 and read straight through, it'd take about 15 minutes, give or take. I might be a slow reader. There is no way that hundreds and hundreds of people climb the mountainside with Jesus to sit down and listen to him talk for 10 minutes. In fact, what most people say is that Matthew actually is giving you a synopsis of everything that was shared. He was giving you the highlights. You know what it's like when you're writing notes? Do you write everything down that I say? No, you're like, that was a really good point. That was another good point. And then if somebody comes and reads your notes, Hannah, what are they going to read? My sermon or your perspective of my sermon? Yeah, and so he's hitting the highlights here, and it's likely that each of these statements he was expounding on. And so it wasn't Jesus against Moses. In fact, it says Jesus, each time that you read through Scripture, each time he says, when he's quoting Scripture, he says, it is written. Do you remember Jesus in the wilderness? Satan comes to him and he tempts him in the wilderness, and Jesus responds and says, it is written. It is written. It is written. So each time that Jesus, even in other areas, when he's in the synagogue, when he's talking to his disciples and he's quoting Scripture, the law, he actually says, it is written. But here he's saying, you have heard. Are you still following with me just for a second? So my point is, he's not bashing the law of Moses because he came to fulfill it. What he's doing is saying, you have heard from the Pharisees, hold on just a second, and the scribes, do not murder, but it's okay to hate. You have heard from the Pharisees, do not commit adultery, but as long as it's up here, it's okay. Hold on just a second. As long as the action hasn't been done, there's nothing wrong with the thought. Go ahead and look as many times as you want to. And so what happens is they're adding on, they're changing, they're adding. The point in the law of Moses from the very beginning was all about your heart. Everything, don't get divorced. Love your wife, honor her. He who finds a wife finds a good thing. Love her, keep her, cherish her. Wives, love your husbands, submit to them, honor them, love them. It's a good thing. This is the law of Moses. He's saying it's a hard issue. Love the Lord your God. Love your neighbor. Do all these things. And Jesus is saying we've got to get back to what we've got to get back to what the heart of God was on these issues. We've twisted them. We've messed with them. We've turned them. We're adding things. And what they would do to the people in that area is they would add burdens after burdens after burdens. It would torment them. It never really allowed them to be free. They were bound by the law, especially the law that they were taught. Caleb, are you in here? Come here, Caleb. Run. Come up here. Run, run, run. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Back here. I've got a bag. I need you to grab it. How many like going on trips? How many like going on trips? How many have ever overpacked for a trip before? Is there such a thing? No, I need the duffel bag. There's a duffel bag back there on the chairs. You're going for like 2 days, a weekend trip, and you're like, is it going to be hot or cold? Let's pack for hot and cold, and we might need this. What if we go swimming? What if we don't go swimming? What if we decide to do this, right? And so you have this bag. Hold this bag for me. Hold it. Yeah, however you want to hold it, whatever you think you need to do. And so this is similar to the law. This is similar to what Jesus is showing. He said the law was never intended to be a heavy burden. The law was intended to help you be free, to help you live a free life. The law was intended to help you see what sin was so that you didn't have the burden of sin on your life. The law was never meant to be a burden. So I'm going to come because it's too much for you. I'm going to come and I'm going to take that burden from you of sin. I'm going to take that burden. But what's happening here and what he's showing you is that the Pharisees, the people, and it even happens to this day. If you've ever been to church, if you've ever been anywhere and you feel like people are putting too much pressure on me, I'm putting too much pressure on myself. I feel like when I go to church, I have to be perfect. I can't talk about my sin. I can't talk about this. I've got to put on a face. Listen to me very carefully. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be perfect. That's why Jesus came, because he knew that you couldn't do it. But instead of helping the normal person of that day, the Pharisees just kept adding things. And this is what happens in our life as we keep adding things. We start playing an instrument, and it's been fun. I don't know. I just picked a bunch of random objects. And so it's like, oh, here's the burden of practice. And then we decide, for whatever reason, because it was upstairs and I need to use it sometime, that we're going to be a chef. And I don't know. There's just random stuff up there. So, all right. I don't want it to be a burden, but it would be fun if you learned to cook, right? And so I don't want to be a burden. And then you get really, really good at that, and you decide to start playing sports, and you get into frisbee and stuff. Frisbee golf, is that what it's called, right? And so you're getting really good at that, and then you get this award for that, and that's fun too. So anybody remember this from a couple summers ago? And so that's up there as well. We're not overpacking at all. It's okay. Listen, this is what you need. It's what you need. This is what the world does to us, isn't it? This is what the world was doing to the people listening to Jesus. The world was saying, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You don't look good enough. That's what Instagram is telling you. You're not pretty enough. That's what TikTok's telling you, that you can't do the things enough. I don't know what they are. I don't watch that stuff. But I see you guys doing these weird dances, and it's weird. But why? Why do you feel the pressure and the need to have to perform for whoever's watching? To get likes, to get shares, to get views. Like, you really want those creepy guys looking at you, girls? Like, really? Is that? Anyway, I gotta stop. Here's my point, though, is there is so much pressure. Hear me out. And that's what the world does, is are you okay? You good? Is they just keep putting more and putting more and putting more. Don't you feel that way sometimes, that you're just kind of, by the end of the day, you're just kind of drudging home going, what happened? I started off so well. I even read my Bible this morning. But by the time I even got to study hall, it was done. like I lost my salvation at least 3 times throughout the day. Anybody, is that just me? You good? He's good. No, you're good. Yeah, he's got this. Yeah, it's not, no pressure. You're good. No pressure. Just got to keep up the appearance with this award because that's a really cool thing, So, and then after that, he becomes a grown man and he goes into like wood cutting and carving and again, just random. Are you good still? Because that's the new fad that's coming around. It's not, but I mean, it might be, you don't know. And so he starts into that and he's like, I got to get a hobby because now I'm like, this isn't satisfying in me anymore. So I'm going to go to this. And this isn't satisfying me anymore. So I got to go to this. And this isn't, you've been there. I've been there. Like we know people who've had midlife crises because this is boring and this is boring. We just keep going to the next thing, like high to high to high to high. And this is what you look like spiritually. This is what the people look like in the Bible time spiritually. This is why Jesus came, because he's struggling physically. He's struggling a lot. Is that good? You good? Okay. I'm not helping him. I'm not Jesus. And then one day it's raining, and you got to help a brother out when it's raining, And so here we go. And you're so cute. Put your head under. That'll help, I promise. There you go. It'll hold it up. You good? Yeah, he's good. Okay. He's like, yeah, I got this. Hold on. Don't drop it yet. I got more stuff, Caleb. I'll do it all at once here. Don't drop it. I've got a super soaker, a badminton, and you decided to be a crossing guard or something. I love you. You're amazing. Here, somewhere, there. This is what the world does to you, and you keep going back for more. I'm sick of it. I am sick of the world stealing my joy. I'm sick of the world stealing my humanity. I'm sick of the world stealing my peace. I mean, we could go on and on and on. This is what's happening. You think he can function throughout the day? How well is he going to do in math class? He can't use his hands. He can't write down an answer. He's going to have to take a verbal test. And then he's going to be struggling because he's like, I don't care. I just have all of this weight. You guys wonder why you're stressed and struggling because you've just let the world eat you alive. And Jesus said the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. But I have come to give you life. Like this stuff, don't leave. So you know where I'm going. And this is what happens. And I wonder how many people after they left the Sermon on the Mount and they felt some sense of freedom and a weight lifted because of the words that Jesus spoke, because Jesus speaks words of life and not death. When you come into his presence, there's fullness of joy like we talked about, not struggle, not any of that. The only reason you struggle in God's presence is because you don't want to let go of this stuff. And so what happens is you put it all down and then the altar's over and you're about to go home and you're like, but what if it rains again? Anybody? No, you don't have to put your hands up. Anybody done that before? And you go, but man, like people were so proud of me for this. And I'll leave the rest, but I really enjoy this stuff. I mean, we could just, I'm not going to keep piling it back on. Maybe I will. I don't know. This stuff. And so what happens in your life is you lay it down, you pick it up. You lay it down. Listen, sometimes after camp, you lay it down for a couple weeks. It's amazing. And then what happens? We just can't help ourselves. I don't know. What are the dances? There's a weird, I don't know. There's weird. As soon as you pick this up, the comparison game starts. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't measure up. And so then what do? We go right back, because this stuff is never too far away. This stuff is never too far. That's not going to happen. Away. This stuff. What does it say? Thank you, Caleb. You can have a seat. Give it up for him. He's amazing. You're a good sport. There's a story in the Old Testament, Cain and Abel. You guys know this story. Hopefully you know this story. If you don't, I'm going to tell you. First two kids ever born, Cain and Abel. Not twins. Cain was older. Abel was younger. They sacrifice. Both of them, Cain, vegetables, Abel, blood. God accepts Abel's sacrifice and not Cain's. Cain gets angry. Anybody ever gotten angry? I deserve that. The praise you got, I should have gotten it. The award that you got, I should have gotten it. The viewership that you got, I should have gotten that. Mine are just as good as yours. I did just as good a job. That scholarship, I should have gotten it. Right? And this is what happens. Cain's no different than you and me. Cain's no different than you and me. And so God literally speaks to Cain and he says, why are you so angry? If you do what's right, won't I honor and please you too? Won't I accept your sacrifice as well? And that's what he's telling each of you this morning. If you do what's right, if you can get free of this and understand that I'm here, that I've done it for you, that you just can let go of these things, won't I accept your sacrifice as well? And Cain's not having it, because he just lets this bitterness boil over and boil over and boil over. And God says these words to him. He said, Cain, sin is at your door. It's crouching at your door, ready to pounce. Can you just picture it like a lion? We watch this show with my kids at night. It's on Right Now Media, and it's like these animals in the African safari, and they start with these tiny little bugs. Then they go to the kings of the African safari, the lions. And you're watching these lioness about to hunt. And they go all to their spot, and they're literally the same color as the grass. They blend in so well. Like, I can just picture, that's what sin is. I mean, it's not messing around. It's wanting to sink its teeth into you and drag you down. Like, this is not a game. And God's telling Cain, this is not a game. Sin is literally at your door, crouching there, waiting for you. If you open the door to him, you're going to die. This is what he's saying to all of you right now. Listen, this isn't about murdering. This isn't about committing adultery. This is about your heart. This is about you carrying this stuff all over the place. And if you keep it up, you're going to die. If you keep comparing yourself to your brother, why don't you just give me what you have, what's your best? If you were to give what's needed, what's necessary, I would accept you as well. But you're so concerned about him. You're so concerned about this. You're so concerned about what the world is putting on you. And so what happens, we all know. Cain just gets angry. He storms off. He picks up a rock, and he kills his brother. Anger, murder, same thing. Lust, adultery, same thing. No different. And some of you have let sin, some of you have let the weight of this world, some of you have let all of this stuff sink its teeth into you for way, way, way too long. You've allowed it to change your life. You've allowed it to sink in. You've allowed it just to become who you are, and you're so used to staggering around with all of this stuff. I mean, let's be honest, after a while it just becomes normal to get out the front door with this bag, with this bag, with this bag, with this bag, with this mask, with this hat, with this thing on, and it's just become your normal routine. And some of you have forgotten even what it means to be free of the expectation of men and women. It's the realization, the feeling of being free from comparison, free that you don't have to care what other people think anymore, because all I care about is the audience of one. All I care about are the nail-scarred hands. All I care about the one who's come to actually give me life, not this fake, false life that just weighs me down. It may seem like freedom, but it ends in chains. It's just the reality of where we're at. You have heard for way too long. This world has inundated every thought, everything that you do, every television program that you watch, every social media thing that you swipe through. It has inundated every part of it. And it's teaching you and saying, you have heard, and this is the way you should live. And Jesus is saying, no, no, no. I have come to change the script. I have come to turn things around. I have come that you may be free and have life, and life to the full. And I'm sick of seeing a generation bogged down because you have heard this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to live. This is how you're supposed to act. Or you might get canceled, or you might get canned, or you might get put out on the curb, or you might not have any friends anymore, or you might not fit in, or you may not be popular, or you may not go to the college you want to, or you may not make it in this world or this world. And I'm sick of it. I don't care anymore. I only care about one person, one thing, and that's Jesus, who I want to one day, like Stephen, who's standing there about to get stoned, because he said, I don't care. I'm serving God no matter what. And Jesus, the right hand of the Father, standing in ovation to Stephen, saying, well done. And the world threw rocks at him, and he died. Normally what happens is it will hit your head, your brain, your head will hemorrhage, and you'll die. It's not a fun way to go. This little bit of time and what I carry with me on this little bit of time determines how I spend eternity. And you know where Stephen's at now? You know where Paul's at now? You know where those who have gone before us are at now? With the one who loved them, freed them, saved them, served them, and he prepared a place for you and for me. That's where I'm going. You have heard. You have heard. You have heard. 3 quick things. I'm not going to expound on any of them. Number 1, here's how you do this. Keep the main thing the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. Jesus. Period. Jesus. Number 2, keep it simple. That's what the world wants to do, is complicate it. Well, what about this verse? And what about this verse? And how do you explain this part? No. Keep it simple. If you believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, you shall be saved. Listen, if you confess of your sin, if you admit that you're a sinner, confess, believe, then you'll have an everlasting life. Keep it simple. Don't confuse it. Don't mix it up. Don't mess it up. Believe, have faith. Keep your faith simple. Jesus loves me. This I know, for the Bible tells me so. It's cliche. It's silly. It's a kid's song, but it's so true. Hide it in your heart, so that you might not sin against God. And number 3, keep your eyes on the prize. Not this one. Keep your eyes on the prize, Jesus. Paul says, I've run the race. My eyes are fixed. My eyes are focused. I'm not looking to the left or the right. I've thrown off everything that would hinder me. He's just thrown it off. He said, no more is it going to have a hold on me, because I'm focused on one thing. I know where I'm going, and nothing of this is going to help me have a better that. You get that? Nothing of this in this much space is going to help me have a better that. This is just the reality. Fix your eyes on the prize and not everything around us. Get your eyes off the phone and look up. Get your eyes off your friends, off this world, off all those things, and look up. Bow your heads with me just for a moment. I know some of you are carrying some stuff around tonight. You've let this world just eat you up. Some of you are even further in, and it may not just be like sin. In that passage, it says to throw off the hindrances and the sin. It makes a difference between the two. Some of these things Caleb was carrying wasn't a sin, but they were definitely hindrances that weighed him down. And so for some of you, it's sin specifically that's holding you back. For others of you, you just got so caught up in the game. You've got so caught up in this world, in this life, and making sure you look right, act right, do right, blah, blah, blah. And tonight's the night to throw it off and leave it at the altar. Tonight's the night to lay it down. Tonight's the night to let it go. Get free. Get free. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus said, I have come that you may have life, and not just life, not meagerly life, walking around carrying a bunch of stuff, life. He said life full, abundant life, free life.